Oh, come on. To the death. Oh, hello and welcome to Andertons TV. My name is Jack Tuxbury. That's Oz behind the camera. And this is...
Andy from Roland.
Oh, man.
Yo.
Friday morning. You've brought in the SH-4D. I did a video where I basically did a Batman kind of like call out to you. Will Andy come in and show us more about it? And you've answered my call.
Yeah, we're here.
Thanks, mate. So in this video, we're going to do a bit of a deeper dive on it because I was super shallow in the last one. So let's get deep, baby.
Before we start though, I just want to say a massive congratulations to you and the whole team, Andertons, at hitting 100,000 subscribers.
Thank you, mate. You're a big part of it. You've endured many a video.
But I know how hard you work, so it's amazing.
Thank you, mate.
Really,
I really appreciate it. And thanks for watching. I forgot to thank people out there. I was thinking of the people who have to sit through all the editing, but thank you guys for watching. Yeah, I can't believe you, I suppose you ain't got much choice. So anyway, let's go.
So the SH-4D. So just to have a quick recap on it. So if for anyone watching, if they haven't watched your video already, go watch that because that goes through all of the different sound engines and some great sound examples on there. But just to give a recap of what the SH-4D is it is a desktop synthesizer, but it's multi-timbral, so it allows you to have 4 synthesizer parts running at the same time. It's also got a really great drum section on it as well, so you can have 4 synths and a drum part, and there's a really cool sequencer on it. And it's got a great emphasis on hands-on sound design and to kind of understand the workflow of it. So on a traditional synthesizer, you have an oscillator section, and that goes into a filter. You've got a couple of envelopes. You have an LFO and maybe some effects, and that's kind of a traditional kind of setup. And we have that on the SH-4D, the oscillator, the filter, envelopes, and so on. But what makes the SH-4D really unique is we can take that oscillator section and swap it for something else. So it's like you have your favorite synth, and then you're able to take that oscillator section and bring in something else like that. Everything else remains the same, but it means that you can really change that sort of fundamental building block of the sound and build up some really cool tones from that. As we said, we're going to take a bit of a deep dive on some of the oscillator sections, so we won't go through all of them. But as I change it on here, so we've gone through the SH-4D, the SH-3D, the sync, and so on, that these, when I change the oscillator section here, we're only changing this part of the synthesizer.
Right.
So the filter is the SH-4D filter, it's the SH-4D amp, and LFOs and everything. So for example, when we go to say the SH-101 oscillator model, this is not a full end-to-end recreation of an SH-101 like we might do in like the boutique version, the SH-101A. But what it is the oscillator section, and it mimics that workflow, and then it'll still go through the SH-4D filter and envelopes and so on. So if you're if you're working on a track and you think like I really want something that's got like an SH-101 kind of vibe in terms of bass sound or something, totally you can get that out of here. But if you're thinking like I really want a full forensic kind of end-to-end recreation of the SH-101, maybe look at the boutique or something like that,
And there's a ton of different oscillator types. As I found out doing that playthrough, I was like, oh God, there's a lot. How many are in there?
So 11, plus also we have a really powerful drum section as well where you can do some sound design. And as we flick through them, so if you use the model dial on here, these the controls sort of change to reflect really what it is that you're using. So if we're on something like say the SH-4D model, where you can have 4 separate waveforms running at the same time, so these become volume controls for each of the individual waveforms, and we can change through sort of a variety of different wave shapes. On another one, so the SH-3D, which is the same, you have 3 waveforms, but then an additional LFO, so now this becomes a control for that LFO. Or say, one other example, say on something like the sync oscillator on here, you can change a waveform on here, but these then control, say, the distance between the 2 synced oscillators, and then this now actually becomes like an envelope for controlling the modulation of the sound. So depending on which oscillator model you use, these controls will will sort of readapt.
And that, I wasn't thinking that about this stayed the same. So if you felt like you had a sound where you liked the envelope of it, like the length, everything, and you just wanted to switch it up, that's so cool. You can just switch up the core oscillator at the beginning. But they were super... One thing I thought through the playthrough was they were great caricature examples of what I thought they'd be. Like the sync stuff sounded super synchy, right? I think it's just giving people what they want there. Right, cool. And how, when you said it's 4-part multi-timbrel, that was one thing that I must say when I sat down and played for it, I was flicking through the different models, but how do you flick between those different...
the different parts.
Timbres, I didn't get that deep.
So down below here, we've got our part 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if you hold shift, you can select which one it is that you're controlling, or you can control the rhythm part. So what I thought really actually we could do is build up a bit of a track. And
come on.
We'll make some sounds from scratch because that's what it's all about, you know, it's making your own tones and stuff. So I'm just going to go to any kind of like blank pattern. So we've got 8 banks of 16 patterns that you can choose. A lot of them are blank, so you can start creating your own thing. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the rhythm section so we can do some drums, because this is a really deep thing actually, and you didn't look at it in your other video, so I thought we'd start with this. So I'm just going to set a tempo. Let's have something a bit chilled. Let's go for 94 this time. Friday morning. So with the drum section on here so now all of our keys at the bottom here, so we've got 26 keys down here, and these are different drum sounds, and like on all of them, if you hit sound, we have lots of different sort of preset kits of all kind of different styles, lots of classic kind of Roland sounds in there, but actually this first kit is a really good example because it's completely synthesized. So this is, as you can see on here, this kick drum is actually just a cosine wave, and then we're manipulating it. So for all of the drum sounds, not only are all of, the majority of the synth controls available, so if I was hitting a hi-hat, I can change the filter on it, I can change the decay, and do that per instrument, and including, say, a reverb send on a particular sound. You can do all of that, but actually we can change the shape. So in the drum section, this becomes a control for our envelope. So if you see on the screen, we can control...
Just as a drum machine. That's insane.
It's really cool. And so I can sort of sculpt the kick drum to be whatever I want. I can swap out for any other kind of different... You can completely make your own...
And that's just on that key.
Just on that key.
Right.
And you can also have 2 sounds layered. So for instance, say we've got this cosine down on here. I could then, if I've gone down to the second waveform, I could go through there and find another, say, a sampled sound. So layer it, say, with an 808 kick. And choose, using the timbre dial, I can adjust the blend between the 2 sounds as well. So you can really fine-tune what you're doing.
Getting why so many people were so excited now.
Yeah, exactly. So even just as a drum synthesizer, it's very very cool. So let's I'm just going to reload that kit. So let's put in a pattern now. So we've got a 16-step sequencer here. We can do up to 64 steps in a pattern. So just sort of
like TR style. What did you call it there?
Yeah, a TR rec style. So like the 808, 909 drum machines. As I say, I can sort of increase a bit of reverb on that. And
coming together now, I can see it.
My hi-hats. So this is my trick. If you're ever doing 16th notes quantized hi-hats and you want to create an interesting pattern, you just button mash it, and it always seems to work out okay.
3, 4.
And it always works. It's always good. I can then sculpt these, say these sounds, so using the filters. So and
freaking cool.
Bring in some other things. So we've got Again, because the sound design options are really cool. So say if I've got, say this little kind of they call it, I think, digital digi-bell sound, I could sort of sculpt it a little bit. And record in real time. And say if I like that sound and I think actually I want to, I can copy that to another pattern. So let's talk about, we'll do a couple of shortcuts maybe as well for someone who's already got one and they want to get a bit more out of it. So if you hold down this note, press up, you can copy it, and then I can go to this other pad, press down, copied it on there. So now I have this sound on here. I could say pan this one to the right, let's pan that one to the left, and let's put in a couple of extra kind of hits on here, so we should have a bit of panning going on.
Yes. Woo! This is banging.
So we've got a bit of variation going on. You can even do things like, I mean, again, because there's cool things, any note that you hold down, it takes you into an option where you can change the velocity and the gate. We can actually change the probability. I can add like sub-steps, you know, things like that. So if you really want to get into some creative sound design and stuff, it's cool. Yeah.
That's so clear. Out of all the drum machines that I've seen, it's kind of worth it. Just that's so understandable.
Yeah, yeah.
And the hands-on control for each step, because sometimes there's like problems with, oh no, that's for the whole kit. But you've solved all of that.
Yeah. And the other thing that perhaps doesn't get talked about so much is like the performance aspect of it. So when you go to your pattern, if you press sound, this is, I guess, kind of like a little performance kind of interface where you can mute in different parts, but you can then also unmute different drum sounds. So this is your drum kit, so as it's playing.
But for 27 part mutes?
So all of the drum sounds, yeah. So if I want to just take out the hi-hats while it's playing, bring them in. So it's really cool. And
you could have just sold it as a drum machine.
yeah, exactly. But that's only one part, and then we have like 4 synthesizer sounds now.
Come on!
So let's get a bass line going.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go shift to part 1, and so we start off with the SH-4D oscillator model on here. And I'm just going to initialize it because I say, well, let's make our sound. There are loads of presets, so you can hit sound, and there's hundreds of presets to choose through. But we're going to just initialize it, so shift and init, and that gives us a saw wave on here. And I guess like to show a couple of like little extra things. So I mean, we can layer up, you know, 4 oscillators together. So we've got a saw wave. I could go over to the next one. I could choose any number of these sort of traditional kind of waveforms. So I could bring in like a square, bring this up, pitch this one down, even fine tune it with a shift key. And we could build up a 4 oscillator synth doing that way, but there are a couple of extra parameters underneath. So if, let's say if I choose something like a Juno waveform, which is like a combination of a square and a saw wave together, if you press enter, there's a few kind of extra controls, and we have this thing called a fat control, which just adds almost kind of like a bit of a sub-oscillator kind of flavour to it. And our timbre dial is hardwired to do pulse width modulation. I'm just going to unsync that from the tempo. So there with just one waveform, if we octave it, we've got a massive bass sound going from that, you know. And again, and then because we've got all of our controls right there, we can just sort of sculpt it however we want.
Wow, this is a bit of a revelation going on for me here.
And then we can record in a bass line, go up to 64 steps. A shortcut for doing that, if you hold down the page button and tweak this one here, we can change the step length there.
Right.
Up to 64 steps. So let's do something here. We can bring in another waveform as well if we want to add something.
Yeah.
And we've also got, you know, over 90 effects that we can apply to each of the parts. So let's go and let's just find a chorus or something. I quite like STD 320 Dimension D, just nice and subtle. My preferred one is modes 1 and 4 together. So if we can also record our parameter automation into it, so if I want to do some cutoff adjustments in the pattern, we can do that as well. So that's recorded in now. So I mean, this is just using the SH-4D synth engine, and you know, lots of really powerful stuff on there. If we let's go explore a different one, you know.
Yeah.
For part
well, you're
2.
thinking, and this is where you've got the freaking everything in the kitchen sink.
Yeah.
So the other bits.
I was thinking if we look at Cross FM maybe, because that's a bit of a different one. So I'm going to go Shift Part 2, and let's initialize this again. So we've got a blank sound, and using the model dial we go and find Cross FM. So this is a 2 operator FM synthesizer, and it allows, so if anyone's not familiar with the idea of what FM synthesis is, instead of having on say a traditional synthesizer, you would start with a waveform, say like a saw wave, and then you would modulate the shape or the sound of that using, say, like the LFO or a filter or something like this. In an FM style synth, you take your main sort of sound and then you modulate it with another waveform, another oscillator. So we call it a carrier waveform and then a modulator waveform, and that's what kind of gets some quite interesting tones out of it. So in this model now, these sliders are no longer volume controls. We have our envelope controls, so I can get quite metallic kind of sounds. I can sort of adjust my release. So even straight away you can get quite a sort of metallic-y kind of knocky kind of sound.
Yeah.
And we can change the ratio of how much that modulator is affecting the carrier. Anything up to sort of 16:1. I think 8:1 is quite a nice one. If you use whole numbers, you get quite sort of simple kind of things. But again, if I press enter, you know, we have a bit of things. We've got a fat control for that. And let's say a bit of pulse width modulation as well.
Yes.
Just to give it a tiny little bit of movement. But again, we can...
I love that that's all just there. And the idiot, I've been dying to say this for the last like 5 minutes. I'm realising at first I was put off by, I looked at it and saw everything and went, oh my God, there's too much stuff. I'm just going to play the presets.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, the idiosyncrasies of each model make me, because I love my OP1 for that. I love that I know that each model has its own quirks, and that's why I never get bored of it. And I can see why people already, if there's a lot of passion out there already for this product, like, they've nailed it, Roland, they've nailed it, because I see that you've already picked it up, that you've picked up all the quirks. Right, of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the great thing about it is I feel almost kind of like whatever type of, you know, whatever your interest is in electronic music, you can kind of get get there. You know, if you're into the sort of more retro kind of analog-y style sounds, it can do that. If you want a bit more these kind of like more sharper metallic sounds, you've got. I mean, there's Wavetable. We'll have a look at that in a minute as well, and a few other things. So, yeah, almost like whatever, and the drum section. You know, whatever angle you're coming from, there's probably stuff to keep you happy.
Slamming price.
So
yeah, keep going. I'm falling in love.
So we've got this kind of a little plucky sound again. Hit some reverb. So we'll just record this on top. So shift and start to record. So we've got 3 parts going down there, so that's it's all good. So let's have a look at another one. So if we go shift and part 3, let's look at, say, Wavetable this time. So again, like Wavetable could be one of these kind of synths that people talk a lot about Wavetable, but it's not necessarily immediately clear what it is. In normal sort of subtractive synthesis, which is I guess like what most kind of analog synths or analog styled kind of synths use, is you start with a simple sort of waveform like a saw wave or a square wave, and then you sculpt that sound, or you take elements away from it to sort of sculpt it. With a Wavetable synth, it allows you to start with a more complex waveform, so you can start with a very different sounding oscillator to begin with, and then also by sort of moving through that particular wave, you can get some really kind of interesting modulation tones and stuff. So on the Wavetable engine on the SH-4D, you start with, we have 31 different waveforms. Lots of different sort of complicated waves. And you can, using the first slider, you can scan through it.
And that's the sound.
That's the sound. Yeah, exactly.
Once you've got it in your ears, you're like, ah.
You can modulate that using sort of the LFO as well. So you can sort of scan through it. And again, like on the previous model we were looking at, we do have an envelope as well. So you can adjust the shape of the sound over time. Using this. So you can get some really cool sounds out of that. But actually, I want to show just again to show like a little extra feature for someone. So I'm actually going to use this first waveform, which starts with a sine, and as you cycle through it, it goes from a triangle to a saw to a square. So as I play a note. But another cool thing about the SH-4D is we have this modulation matrix, which allows us to assign pretty much any control or a CC number to do something else. So if I do Shift and 7 to go to the modulation matrix, so we've got, in this particular model, we've got 2 slots that we can choose. So I can assign a different parameter, but in this instance, I'm going to assign the keyboard, so the key tracking, and we're going to assign that to be the wavetable position. So what this means is, so as we sort of go up through the keyboard, it'll actually be moving through the waveform. So if you play something low, we get the sine wave, and as we go higher up, in fact I'm on the wrong part.
This is the type of stuff I don't think about, but when you do it, I'm like, oh yeah, this is synthesis. This is real synth stuff.
So all the way up here, we're into really sharp territory, down at the bottom of the sine wave kind of thing. So what we could do with that, I'm just going to find. So let's fine tune it with an arpeggio. So in this arpeggio here, let's have.
Oh yeah, Andy.
So what that's given us is, as it's sort of playing, you can. It's playing the arpeggio, but because of the way that we've done it, it's almost like it's accenting that last note of the arpeggio because it's it's going through this saw wave triangle thing, and then sine sort of triangle wave, and then when it gets to the end, it's giving you a bit of a saw wave for a bit of snap.
Really musical.
Yeah, exactly. So actually, I mean, if you run in the arpeggiator, you can just record that into the sequencer anyway. But another little tip, if someone wants to do step record, so instead of doing shift and start for a real-time record, if you just want to play in the steps, if you hold button 1 and press start, then we can just... And then this will play as well, so... So you can build up some quite cool flavours, really. And again, let's crank a bit of reverb on that, because I do love it, so...
What? Bit more about this filter.
Yeah.
Is that... Is it modelling? Is it its own thing?
Yeah, it's its own thing. So it's a 24 decibel slope low pass filter, or 4-pole, as some people call it, and it is the SH-4D filter. So it's sort of a brand new filter design that's exclusive to this model.
It's going well with all the oscillators you're throwing at it.
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking. I was like, it all melds together and gives it a sound.
Yeah, but it is multi-mode as well. So we've got it in low pass at the moment, but you can also have it in band pass or resonant high pass, but there is also a high pass filter as well, so if you want to just take a separate high pass filter. Oh, and another thing, sorry, is let's go back to our bass sound actually, and let's make a tweak on that. So if I go back here, and I'm just going to mute out our other parts so we can listen up. If we've also got a drive section, so you can harmonically sort of overdrive the signal before it goes into the filter as well. So
without having to go to the effects.
Yeah.
Cool.
Just so that it sort of reacts a little bit different to the filter.
I love how the envelope is built in to there as well.
Yeah.
Oh god.
So that's cool. But again, using the modulation matrix is, so if you wanted to, I won't do it on this sound, but if you wanted to assign that envelope to do like pitch or something like that, you can do.
In terms of USB stuff, what kicks out of the USB? Do you know?
So you got audio and MIDI out of both of them, and you can do multi-channel audio and multi-channel MIDI as well. So
right, because you're so far ahead of the game. Even on the Boss product I did the other day, the amount of ins and outs over USB.
Yeah. So if you're using outputs 1 and 2, that gives you just the mix. So if you just want to capture your performance as it is. But from 3 and 4, so 3 and 4 would be part 1, 5 and 6 would be part 2, 7 and 8 would be part 3.
So every part has its own USB out. And
a separate MIDI channel as well. So if you're playing it from an external keyboard, or if you're playing it from from a computer or something like that.
Yeah, sequencing it. Oh, insane. Cool.
So, no, it's all good.
Because I was getting excited about the drums. I'm like, oh wow, that's really good that you can kick it out over the different parts.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So that's good. So we've got drums. We've got 3 different parts going. We'll go one more, so shift and part 4, ring modulator maybe, because this is a different one. So I go to our ring, so this is 2 waveforms that are set up in a sort of ring modulator configuration. And these sliders now, so we've got control over adding in sort of the bottom end on each of the waveforms, and the amount of sort of the oscillator shape, and also the amount of frequency modulation between them. So you can get some really wacky kind of sounds, but if we try and... try and make it into a pad sound. There's a preset that I really like that I'm going to try and sort of do. But if I fail, we might have to revert back to that preset.
We forge on. Very characterful type of oscillator, and then filter it down.
Yeah. So, and again, everything is better with a bit of reverb. and a bit of
The
delay.
effects were belting off when I did the patch.
Yeah.
The patches.
Yeah, I mean, a quick note on the effects as well. So you've got, so you can have one effect per part, which I guess we call the tone effect, and there's like over sort of 90 to choose from. So things like chorus and delay, distortions, all that kind of stuff. Then there is also a global reverb, chorus, and delay, which are like send effects. So you can choose how much each part is sent to each one, or individually for the drum sounds as well, which is nice. And then also there is this sort of master effects, which sits over everything. So we have like a master EQ and compressor, which can kind of sit over everything.
Give that a blast at the end.
Yeah, cool. And but also as well, if you wanted to, so again, like say one of the popular effects is one called lo-fi compression. You can have that sitting over top of everything if you want to get like a bit of a a vintage kind of vibe. Yeah. So we've got this. So
it sounds great.
Let's just hit. In fact, let's do 64 steps again.
So when you come and do this, I realise how much I can miss the point of the product. I'm like, darn it! I can't believe you put the videos out. I'm so sorry if anyone who watches the videos where I'm like, yeah, I think this kind of does this, and I'm like, oh no, it doesn't look this.
It's all good. It's all good. So yeah, hit shift and start. Perhaps not my best melody, but it's okay. It's fine.
Well, I think it's that texture of it.
Yeah. I have to play.
And you've gone with your gut. You made everything from scratch, and it would be different every time.
Exactly. I mean, and then you can save all of those sounds.
Awful way to demo the product just to play the presets with 60 seconds. But like the fact that you're making these sounds so simply.
Yeah, but you can spend a lot of time.
We never do that in YouTube land.
No, but that's the fun. I mean. Yeah, I really enjoy that, sort of sitting there and just kind of like trying to sculpt the tone and try and find a sound like what you want it to be.
You feel like we don't really do that. I know we want to do that, but this product seems to be coaxing it out of you even more.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's just nice having all of those controls there really, and being able to sort of, it's perfect for those people who want to, they want to grab a control and feel like it has like a meaningful effect on what they're doing, and I think that's really nice about it. I'll have to show you though. I mean, the sound is okay, but the one I was trying to sort of mimic in the ring modulator, I forget what it's called. I think it's called Dark. There we go, Dark Ambience. So this thing is just a really nice pad sound with a lot of character, and didn't quite get there, but that's a good one. So
no, it's great.
It's a good one.
It's so we've got 4 parts in it now, have we?
Yeah, so we've got 4 parts, and we've got our drums.
Can we have a little blast of those because I want to hear the multi effect on that.
Of course, yeah. So when we engage the multi effects, we can turn it off or on if we want to do some performance things on there. So, and using the type dial on here. As I tweak this, it says on the top of the screen what it is that we're going through.
Yep.
So actually, let's find that lo-fi compressor, because I know that's a popular one.
There we go. I mean, this sounds really great, but when I've made really bad beats on it, I just think, I'm just going to lo-fi it and then resample it and start again.
Yeah, exactly. So when I start, I can press the type knob down, and it'll. Shift and MFX, I can go in, I can tweak that. Which is cool. Other things that you could do, I mean, like so.
It sounds really good, man.
Yeah, it's a really. again, like, yeah, for people who want to do, again, sort of like lo-fi hip-hop or just...
Do you feel you can get a best of... Does it have... it's got loads of things that I thought, oh, that's not... I've never seen that from Roland, but then it's also got like the best of bits because you've got all the PCM stuff in there as well.
Oh, yeah, it does, yeah. So you've got the PCM models, you have, you know, you've got samples of like JD800 piano.
Yeah.
And you've got... I mean, again, the Juno and the SH-101 kind of oscillators, and we have the Juno chorus built in there as well, so you can get those kind of vibes out of it as well, which is wicked. With the effects, I was just going to set it up on the so you can real time control the effects as well. So if you, for instance, say if you've got a filter go in, when I turn it on, I can. So you can use that with for a performance kind of thing.
Yes.
So,
and you were saying you had that mode, right, where you can see all the parts?
yes, yeah, so
we're at that
if we
point
go
now, aren't
to pattern and press sound, so now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And there's the send tab.
Yeah, oh yeah, they're the send tabs, and this is now our mixer for the parts, so for each part, and the timbre dial becomes the level of your drums, so you can see that that's adjusting that slider for drums.
Cool.
And whichever one you're selected on is what this is targeted to. So if you want to make a tweak to a sound in real time, so as we're playing it, if I wanted to tweak, say the bass sound, I'd press 1. I can sort of adjust those controls in real time.
Woo!
That was a bit unslick there.
Killer.
Cool.
Totally got this product wrong. I'm regretting making a video, but I'm glad you came in and rectified it and showed the people actually what it's about.
Yeah, and you know, and the thing is, I say there's some just fun stuff as well that we've not. Let me go back to, which was our Wavetable sound. This one. So just for a bit of fun as well, I mean, so we've got an arpeggio, but if you go into the menu, if we go Shift and Menu, we have this thing called the visual arpeggio. So if I press this, and I'm going to choose number 2, say this one, which is the bubble algorithm. So as I
Oh, come on.
and I can change the speed of that. I can change the amount of gravity. If I wanted to, because it's got an accelerometer in it, I can a gyroscope. If I pick it up,
Sold!
it'll even fall to one side of the screen. But again, I can tweak the sound. So if I just want to make this, you know, for people who like sort of a bit kind of generative ambient music, you know, let's change the speed of that. But there's other fun ones as well. So if we've got, let's go for
Edge sketch.
Oh yeah, so yeah, I mean, so there is like, as I say, there is, if we choose which key that we're in, so let's say we're in C minor for this piece, we can then, yeah, as you say, draw in notes. This will sound probably bad because I'm doing it quickly.
But that's so much fun. When you're 2-3 years into owning a product, and when you bought it, you went, oh, screw this. But you're like, I'm telling you, in 2-3 years' time, you're going to love that Roland gave you this.
Yeah.
Because you're going to go, oh, should I just F about with that today?
Yeah, exactly, and that's fun.
It has a playfulness that I think is surprising.
Yeah, I mean, again, like, just for a game thing, so we've got the PONG on here, so if I press...
No, come on, mate.
So, go on, so if I hit a note...
Oh, come on. To the death.
And if you want to make it interesting, you can add in.
so good.
You can add in 2. So let's.
Oh, mate, imagine putting out a single and you and your mate played the lead melody by playing Pong.
Yeah, I know. You know.
Why wasn't this in the product launch?
It's just fun, you know. So it's like
There's so much in it.
Yeah.
It felt like that first launch, mixed opinion, but really positive. Like since it's come out, loads of people have ordered it.
Yeah, exactly. And we're making them as fast as we can, but like
Cool.
demand's been great. And I think that's the thing. It is such a deep product. I mean, because you know, as I say, there are 11 different oscillator models, and we've looked at kind of like 4 and the drums as well. You know, so that we could spend, you know, if we were going a deep dive on all of them, we'd be here for hours on end. But this is why I think it's great for, you know, as I say, pretty much kind of like whatever style of music that you make that uses synthesizers, you can probably find some ground in this that will cover it. And again, because it's like a desktop format, you know, if you've got other devices that you use, you might already have like a separate drum machine, you might have like a boutique or another little synth or something like that, which cover certain kind of bases. This is great for just filling in all of those extra gaps, you know. If you've got, say if you've already got like a little Juno boutique and say the 808 or something like that, this can really great complement it, but then you can focus on using the other engines to fill those gaps, or likewise, you might already have some things that do those kind of more modern, metallic-y kind of sounds, and this can give you that sort of, the retro flavours, you know, so whatever
Is
you
there any editor or anything like that goes with this?
No.
So it's just all on here.
Yeah.
It didn't seem that way, that it needed it. What was I going to say, before... can you play us out? You were playing some house stuff.
Oh yeah, we'll do that.
Just to show the versatility of it.
Yeah.
Like that's a really kind of sounds pretty cool to me, that song we made. But
Yeah.
You were making some banging house with it as well.
Yeah. I mean, just one last point on you're saying about the editor kind of thing is like, so really in terms of the complexity, I mean, there are, it's really just like one menu deep. I mean, most things you can access from here or from Shift and a button press, but if you do go into a menu, say the tone menu or the LFO menu, it's not menu into menu into menu.
No, I was scared at first looking at it, but then you've alleviated my fears.
So it's just sort of one main thing and then a surface layer underneath, so it's cool. But let's have a jam with some...
Yeah, just to prove it, like I came in and just slamming out some Manny House. We played Pong on this thing. We've made...
You wouldn't have, I think, if I hit Shift and start.
Woo! Perfect. I mean, that is the sound as well. Like Roland owned it.
I think we should.